Welcome back everybody to Moderate Mods, and in today's episode we're going to be using the 1974 AMC Hornet X hatchback, and yeah, this is added into the game via the James Bond car pack. As this was used in the film The Man with the Golden Gun, most notable for doing that barrel roll, which is still impressive even by today's standards. But yeah, this isn't the most powerful car that we've taken on this series, and nor is it the most powerful car from the kind of period that this was from. Kind of really part of the Malaise era in American domestic car manufacturing. But I still really rather like it, and quite frankly I wish we had more from this period in American history, automotive history, because yeah, there's some interesting cars, and yeah, they really are a rarity on these kind of games. So it's in D class, but it's not quite anywhere near the bottom of D class, which is always good. And yeah, as you can see by the stats, it's reasonable. Handling and braking isn't all that great. Acceleration isn't all that particularly brilliant either. But the launch is good and the speed is good as well, especially considering this only has a 3-speed gearbox. And yeah, going for that gearbox is 175 horsepower, 285 pound-feet of torque from a 5.9 litre V8 engine, and it weighs only 3,100 pounds, which is quite light for a mid-size car like this, especially considering so many other cars from that period were heavyweights. But yeah, it's nowhere near as light as say the Gremlin, but it does have more power and more torque. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what it can do in stock form, and then obviously we're going to upgrade it, see if we can make it any better. So yeah, let's see what this stock car can do in terms of time. It's hardly the most sophisticated setup. As you can see there, we're doing a one-tire fire because the diff isn't all that good. And yeah, because it only got a 3-speed gearbox, the gears are quite long. You can see we're doing 75 until we turn it, change it to third gear, which is quite a long gear. Second there. Got a fair bit of understeer as well because it's got such a heavy engine up front. But also probably because the suspension isn't all that great and the tyres are quite thin. Neither does it rev all that high, which is pretty much typical for American cars from this period. But once it gets going, it is a fairly fun car to drive. It's hardly a quick one. It's quite lethargic in terms of gaining speed. Obviously not helped by the lack of horsepower, but also the amount of weight that it's got going on with. In respect to that amount of horsepower as well, if it was about as light as a Gremlin, then yeah, it would be far faster. But our first lap time is 1 minute 23.734 seconds. Which is reasonable, I guess. I'm sure we can do even better than that. We aren't losing to a original Volkswagen Beetle there. When it comes to rivals and modes, you put up against someone in a similar class of car, so that'll be around 400 PI like we are. Stayed into a wall there, unfortunately. And again, nearly pretty much did it again. Yeah, the understeer on this is something we're going to have to sort out. As well as a gearbox. But still, we managed to improve time there at 1 minute 16.643. So about 7 seconds or so quicker. Really does not turn in very well. still maintain that it would be interesting to have more cars from this period from America. It might not make sense to some, but to have a lot of bad cars on a game is not necessarily a bad thing. It can make races interesting. It can really rather make a car list on a game really rather varied. Not see much point in a car list that has cars that are practically flawless on it. It's quite boring, which is why I'm glad cars like this are on this game. Just wish there were more of them. So I'm going to improve slightly there in our final lap time at 1 minute 15.876. But yeah, there's still plenty more to get out of this car, because yeah, the understeer is quite shocking. The gearbox is really rather lacking, and obviously the engine is quite lethargic in terms of gaining speed. So yeah, there's a lot to improve on this car, but nonetheless, let's get into the garage and see what we can do. So here is the car in all of its mid-size glory, and yeah, it's a pretty well-sized vehicle and a pretty reasonably practical vehicle as well. So if you wanted a family car, then this would be more than adequate. And yeah, the fact it's a hatchback as well is really rather great. I do like the fact that the hatchback aspect to it as well doesn't actually make it look like a hatchback. To me, that looks like the boot is just going to open up to the window, or maybe a little bit further back or forward. But yeah, it is a hatchback, and that makes it really rather practical, which yeah, is something that 70s American cars are becoming more and more akin to, being more practical. So yeah, let's take a look at the acceleration times top speed first. 0 to 60 in 8.1 seconds, 0 to 121.6 seconds, and because of that, only having a 3-speed gearbox, only has a top speed of 131, but that is still more than some cars from the early 70s and late 60s. Some American cars with 4 gears are even slower than that. So yeah, it's not the worst, but it's definitely something that we're going to have to improve. So yeah, the gearbox first. Let's hoping that the street transmission makes it 4-speed. I think it does, because it does increase the speed there. So yeah, hopefully that's the case. Go to race driving line to get out some weight. Put a street clutch in it. We'll widen the tyres front and rear to help solve that understeer. We're not going to make them massively wide, because that obviously is not very practical. So 285s will do. 255s up front. So hopefully that will aid in grip. I don't think we're going to swap the engine out or anything, because yeah, we're only getting massive amounts of power. Obviously 415 horsepower isn't all that much in comparison to some cars from the early 70s. Because obviously the likes of a Chevelle SS was having 450 horsepower, but for a car like this, yeah, that's a bit too much, and yeah, the supercharger has a fair bit more than I would like as well. So we'll leave that, we'll leave the drivetrain, we'll make the brakes better though. Give it sporty brakes. Give it, oh, we can't change the suspension, which is a bit of a shame, because it is, well, it's not the worst suspension, but it is far from the best. Sport front and rear anti-roll bars. We'll knock a little bit of weight out as well. We'll lighten the flywheel a little bit, knock a few pounds off. We'll enlarge the engine to a 6.2. We'll give it better street cams and valves just to up those revs, because it wasn't all that high. Give it a street intake, a sport intake manifold, a street carburettor, and a street ignition. It goes up to 220 horsepower. Can we even out with any more upgrades? Because I do like an even number. No, not really. Don't really want to add more cooling and oil and cooling, because that does add a fair bit of weight. So yeah, there we go. We've done a fair bit to the vehicle, as you'll see. We've now got up to 220 horsepower, so we've got an extra 45 horsepower there. We've knocked out 42 pounds in weight, and as you can see, the lateral G's have gone up slightly, and we've actually gone into C class as well, and all for 20,000 credits, which yeah, isn't all that much at all. So let's see what that's done for our acceleration. So now we're doing 0 to 60 in 6.874 seconds, and 0 to 117.134 seconds, so substantially quicker in terms of loads. And yeah, we're now doing 145 miles an hour, so yeah, 14 miles per hour more, which is all good. And yeah, we have 5 gears now, which yeah is better. Obviously it's not the 4 that most American cars would have at the time, especially from AMC, but it's still better than the 3. So yeah, let's get back onto the circuit and see what this car can do with the upgrades, and yeah, see if it's going to be any quicker. So yeah, like I said, we're just in C class now by about 6 PI, but the speed and launch and acceleration are better. Not massively so in terms of acceleration, it's only gone up 0.3 in terms of the stats, but the handling is 0.4 better, the braking is 0.3 better for the handling, I think, and 0.8 better for the braking, which is massively better for the braking. Obviously better braking means we can brake later into corners and carry more speed going into those corners as well, hopefully. But yeah, especially because obviously we've got wider tyres and less weight, but yeah, marked improvement in that regard. Now we have 327 pounds-feet of torque from its 6.2 litre V8, so it's not going up massively in terms of cubic capacity, but yeah, definitely enough to add a bit more power and a bit more torque, which will also be able to be taken advantage of now that we've got a couple of extra gears to play with. No doubt this car would have been quicker with just the handling upgrades and the improved gearbox, but now that it's got the power to go along with that handling and the gearbox, yeah, it should hopefully be far faster. Obviously we didn't solve the one tyre fire going on, but that would have required a whole new diff, and yeah, something in real life doing something like that is jolly expensive. And to be honest, it only comes into play, that kind of thing, when you are setting off. Definitely turns in better. Feels a lot sharper. Brakes are certainly better. I came on a bit too early there. Far less in the way of understeer, which is always good to see. We're not slowing down going up this hill section as well, at least not by much. And yeah, first lap time 1 minute 19.396, which is far quicker than our first lap time with the stock vehicle. Obviously, if you're going too fast in a corner, you're still going to have issues, but learning this car, yeah, you can definitely tell that it's better in terms of handling, braking, acceleration, and in terms of maintaining speed as well. Yeah, overcooked it a little bit there. That's down to me and not the car. Just about learning the car's limitations, really. Minute 14.892 seconds there, so we're already quicker than our quickest lap in the stock vehicle. Not by much, just under a second, but still quicker. So let's try and get a better time on this final lap. Still some understeer when you push it a bit too hard, but that's to be expected, especially given we couldn't actually improve the suspension for some reason. But yeah, certainly a lot less easy to get into an understeer situation, quite frankly. And there we go, 1 minute 12.105, which is, yeah, far faster than what the stock vehicle could do. And that's despite you not being able to upgrade the suspension or doing the diff or anything like that. So yeah, massively impressed by how quick this is over the standard car. You're talking nearly 4 seconds quicker, and yeah, better handling, better braking, more in the way of acceleration and top speed, and you've got more gears to play with to make the most of what power it has. Obviously it's not got the most amount of power in the world, it's only got 225 and not much more in the way of torque, but it's now, you know, able to instill a bit more confidence in you and therefore make it that bit more enjoyable to drive. So yeah, and all for only 20,000 credits, which is not bad at all. But nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.